other words. What can you do in a small country? Well, first, things happen for four things: ideas, interest, incentives, leadership, providence, or luck. But working in ideas, there are no shortcuts. You always have to work in ideas, correct? Now, ideas without action are just ideas. So you need human action. You need to have also the right ideas. To have action. Now, in a democracy, if your question goes to how we act politically to increase our numbers, I think apart from having a message that is more attractive than the message passed by many free market economists that just business or by libertarians, do whatever you want, or our system will make you richer. So have a message that understands the complexity of the human being, but at the same time try to seek consensus on things that you agree with other people. If you separate yourself from people who think differently in one or two areas, you will never be able to achieve majority status. Again, I lived 30 years in Argentina, and my reading habits were awful, and perhaps still are. I'm very passionate. So the typical way that in some Latin countries people read is, there's a opinion book. You read it. Someone gives you a book, and then you see the index, and let's see the topic that I know very well, and then you go and read what he says about the topic that you know very well. And if she wrote something that you disagree with, you say, oh, it's stupid, I don't like it, I do my own things. And the same happens in politics. In country after country that I travel, the so-called center-right, they fight like cat and dogs, while the left goes united, correct? So, in the United States, and again, I still have to learn to do this, but I'm trying to know, you see, let me see what this book says that I agree with. And then, wow, this is a good point. Look, I'm going to speak and compliment this person on this issue. And then afterwards, you slowly grow. It's like if you meet a man that you like or a woman that you like, beautiful. Now you try to slowly speak to find something in common and build upon that. Do you understand? Say, oh, I don't like her purse. What an ugly purse you're wearing, So if you change your purse, I will court you. So, a few remarks about what you said.
Any other question? Of course, there is a connection between a democracy and a free market, but the question is whether can we have a democracy without a free market and free market without a democracy?
Well, depends on how you mention democracy. And again, we have seen many different combinations. And today, for example, you see that China, for example, scores very low on economic freedom, but has been moving towards economic freedom. It has an authoritarian regime, and is how you say, and so there you have an example that at least for a couple of decades something like that existed. But the two countries that score number one in economic freedom, Hong Kong and Singapore, also have something like very limited democracy, correct? So in my country now, I'm a proud American citizen. The word democracy doesn't appear in the language much of the founding fathers. Usually when it appears, it's in a negative way, not in the Constitution or Declaration of Independence. And we want a republic, divided power, so that the people in power who are not angels, and that's something the moralists have been, had something called the angelical vision of the state. People thought, economists thought, and then bishops followed, oh, if the market doesn't work, let's bring the state, and the state will make it work better, because government people care for the common good, while private sector cares for the private interest. That sounds like a joke for those who know how things work, correct? But as the founding fathers knew that human beings were not angels, the whole goal of the American experiment was to limit the power of government and divide it. That's American exceptionalism. And we think that that dream can be shared by everyone. But I think the system where the people who get much more benefits from government than what they pay back, it's almost impossible to have the system not collapse or go to major crisis, because the moment the majority of the population receives gifts from government that they don't realize that they pay, it's very hard to reverse. My native country got into that in the mid-40s, and Argentina is still stuck in that problem, from being one of the great countries in the world that attracted immigrants from the best parts of the world, the most cultured part of the world came to Argentina. Now Argentina is a land of emigration, and people leave the country. My sisters, my grandmother was born in Italy, so my mother had Italian father and Italian or whatever, Croatian mother. So my sister said, and the great-grandchildren said, the best gift you can give us is your Italian citizenship, so we can escape to Europe. That's very sad. So, but again, as long as we are stuck with Rousseauian democracy, which is this type of democracy, winner takes all, and they're almost not limited to what the state can do, correct? I think the only thing we can do is just try to be slightly better in how we build, or much better in how we build political coalitions. And I think we're about due to a re-evaluation of this type of majoritarian rule or Rousseauian democracy. Have much stronger constitutional constraints, in order to avoid the majority from abusing the minority. Milton Friedman spoke about these things because, Chile for a while had an authoritarian regime and started to implement market economics. And Milton Friedman predicted that if the military were honest, people were going to vote them out of office, and they were going to go to a more democratic rule, and that happened. So I know that some people are trying to replicate that model in Africa and other parts, but usually dictators rarely behave like the authoritarian rulers of Chile. Why? Because Lord Acton wrote, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power tends to corrupt absolutely. So people can suddenly have this majority power, majority votes, they have almost veto proof in their Congress, they are ready to do, they can do whatever and abuse power. So I think for a while we have seen long periods of not very democratic regimes and pretty much good respect of market orders. But I think obviously the ideal system is a democratic republic or a monarchic republic, something that divides power and allows for economic rights to be exercised.
Alejandro, thank you very much for your contribution and wonderful lecture and new knowledge we received during this evening. Hvala tudi vam, da ste se odzvali našemu vabilu. Zdaj lahko še postojimo, se kaj pogovorimo tudi z našim gostom in vidimo se torej prihodnji mesec. Objavili smo urnik naših dogodkov, gostje bodo znani v kratkem tudi, da so temu obvestili. Hvala lepa.